evening, everyone. So I want to welcome everybody. If you didn't get a chance to tell friends that are about to be back on waiting list, let them know you can come on in. Sorry, we got So I want to welcome everyone to Christine Issa Rae. We're really excited. So glad to see everyone out. So as many of you know, Issa Rae, with her own unique flair and infectious sense of humor, Issa Rae's content has garnered over 25 million views and close to 200,000 subscribers on YouTube. In addition to making the Forbes 30 Under 30 list twice and winning the 2012 Shorty Award for Best Web Series for her hit series, The Misadventures of Awkward Black Girl, Issa Rae has worked on web content for Pharrell Williams, Stacey Edmonds, and numerous others. She developed a TV series with Shonda Rhimes for ABC and is currently developing a half-hour comedy show for HBO, which is in the works, going to go on. And Rae is also has released a book of essays called Misadventures of Awkward Black Girl, and it is available for sale. So if you have a back foundation, and we stick around later on to sign up for the book too. So, and I'm really excited because she is a Pac-12 alumni from Stanford University. So it's exciting to have somebody West Coast that way. And without further ado, I wanted to give a big University of Washington welcome to Miss Issa Rae.
Thank you so much. Hello, thank you guys so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here. And thanks, I see some of you guys with the book in hand and it makes me really excited. So writing this was, I wish I could say that it was fun. It was not, it was a very lonely and sad experience. This is my first book and it was actually really challenging for me because, you know, I was going from the screenwriting medium, you know, writing teleplays and web series, and that's a very like dialogue heavy medium. And people rarely get to see the descriptions that you write. They get to like visualize it. And then transitioning from that to, you know, writing an entire book, which is focused on prose and how you write, was just very nerve-wracking. And I was scared, like I felt like I wasn't interesting enough to even put it out there. So I hope that you guys will decide otherwise. And I actually came to decide to actually write a book in general because of a conversation I had with my editor. I always knew that I wanted to do a series with Awkward Black Girl in some way, but I thought I wanted to make it fictional. And she was like, well, what about you? You're awkward, right? And I was like, yes. And she was like, well, what are some of the stories that make you who you are, that make you awkward? Like, can you reach back and think about any pivotal moments? And, you know, just listening to her questions, I was like, yeah, I can. And so a lot of these essays, a lot of these stories just, I feel like are in a sense my origin story of awkwardness. So I'd love to share with you, read out loud a chapter called ASL. At only 11 years of age, I was a cyber hoe. Looking back, I'm embarrassed. For me, for my parents, but oddly enough, my cyber social debauchery is indirectly correlated with my current status as a so-called internet pioneer. It all started when I began catfishing, creating characters and transmitting them over the internet, though back then people just called it lying. Had my father not signed my entire family up with America Online accounts for the computer in our modest Potomac, Maryland home, I don't know that I would have had the tools to exploit the early ages of the internet. 2 years earlier, my oldest brother, Amadou, had gone away to college at Morehouse, freeing up the coveted computer, which was housed in the basement for my use. Before he decamped for college, I would spend hours at a time watching him type the commands into MS-DOS that would transport us to the magical kingdom of Sierra's King's Quest 6 on our IBM. Who knows about that? Yes, Centric, yes. I never had a strong desire to play the game myself. I always assumed I wasn't smart enough to play it on my own until Amadou graduated from the house and I no longer had anyone to excitedly observe. I looked up to my oldest brother as the epitome of intelligence. He knew everything. though he was too humble to be ostentatious with his knowledge as I would have been had I been as smart. So I simply observed. At 18, he was an official adult, and he had a duty to selflessly spread his intelligence to the world, other people's younger sisters included. His absence left a void in my heart and in the basement, particularly where the use of the computer was concerned. I wasn't next in line for the computer, but my second oldest brother, Malik, was too preoccupied with football, girls, and high school to care. He'd occasionally make use of it for term papers and Tetris, but otherwise it was mine for the taking. Using the computer wasn't foreign to me by any means. I had an old Apple computer in my very own room, which was a double source of jealousy for my younger brother, where I played number munchers and self-published my stories on perforated paper from an excruciatingly noisy printer. "Jolisa, are you wasting paper again?" my mother would yell from her makeshift home office, tipped off by the mechanical snitch. When alone and mom approved, I actually loved to hear the robotic crunching and whirring that the printer made while laying to ink my very own written words. But the computer in my room paled in comparison to the one downstairs in the basement. For one thing, the large floppy disks, and I think they were actually called hard disks, what the fuck, 90s? Were becoming extinct, and rightfully so, since the data on those things could be lost with a smudge of a finger. And since my computer took only the hard disks, my game choices were limited to nerdy learning games and text-based adventure games with no visuals. Boo. The other reason my computer wasn't a huge triumph for my preteen self-discovery was because it lacked a modem, which meant no dial-up internet for me. But AOL changed my life. Specifically, it changed my social life. Okay, to be more precise, AOL gave me a social life. It ignited my social development, it expanded my concept of sexuality. Because of AOL, I had imaginary friends that weren't imaginary. I had elaborate conversations devoid of awkward silences, and perhaps most valuable of all, I could actually talk to boys at my command. Before my parents caught wind of frightening news reports of child predators, I spent my days after school and after school evenings in chat rooms, learning to speed read, talking to kids my age who were also ahead of the curve, or pedophiles who were remarkably creative and persistent in their forbidden pursuit. Pedos actually had it made in the 90s, in the mid-90s, before the media exposed them. Talk about the glory days. My friends at school, other fifth graders, didn't seem to relate when I mentioned chat rooms and profiles, or when I sang along to the dial-up internet song I made up in my head. It seemed that for a brief moment, only I was privy to this alternate American universe that lived online. By the time my family moved to Los Angeles to join my dad, a pediatrician who had seized an opportunity to open his own family clinic there, my relationship with the computer had grown immensely, much to the dismay and irritation of my mother. "You're always on the computer. Go do your homework." "I already finished." "Well, then go outside and play." She just didn't get it. Only recently, in my late 20s, did she come to realize that my excessive computer use is what led me to becoming the self-employed, almost focused career woman I am today. By the summer of 1996, more of my friends from Maryland had adopted AOL. It helped us bridge the 3,000 miles between us, and by then I was already over the handwritten letters of yesteryear. That was a form of communication of the third world, reserved for pen pals from Ghana and Spain. Besides, the "you've got mail" greeting was way more exciting than the dead silence of receiving a letter. And exclaiming, "I've got mail" in the foyer to yourself isn't the same, trust me. It was through electronic mail that I tell my friends back home about my Hollywood adventures. Never mind the fact that I lived in Windsor Hills, 30 minutes away from Hollywood, and that I was struggling to make friends. Or that my sense of style was horrendous, and my middle school had done away with lockers so the authorities could better monitor drug use. All I ever wanted was a locker. I felt robbed of the middle school experience I saw on Boy Meets World and Doug. But my friends didn't have to know that. I led them to believe I was on the brink of stardom just by breathing in the recycled smog of other celebrities around me. Plus, I lived down the street from Ray Charles's old house, so I was famous by association. Our move back to Los Angeles also fulfilled a dream I'd held on to for 5 whole years. We were finally reunited with my father. He'd visit us in Maryland once every 2 to 3 months for an extended period of time, but for the most part, I spent my elementary school years without him, and in his absence had constructed a superheroic Arnold Schwarzenegger's Father of the Year image of him in my mind. My dad was the man, and whenever I tell my teachers my father was a doctor who was too busy to come to back to school night, they're surprised and delighted, oh, always gave me a sense of pride. I didn't speculate then that they were making an assumption about my family's income and placing my blackness into a Huxtable category. To me, their reaction implied that a doctor was an important profession, which meant my dad was important. And I wanted to be just like my dad. I so longed to live with him and see my family complete, I neglected to figure out that the reunion meant double supervision. The only computer in the house was in my dad's home office, and now internet activity was being monitored without my knowing it. Going through puberty during the dawn of the internet could have left me unscathed if my dad weren't so annoyingly tech-savvy. If only he, a native African, were like the tribal stereotypes I read about in my middle school history books, I would have gotten away with so much more. Instead, I found myself sneaking to look up sex in the encyclopedia and then cross-referencing my findings with the yahoo.com search results. Also, unbeknownst to me, my dad had added a kid-safe image blocker, so I was always limited to boring text-only definitions. I was wrought with hormones and obsessed with finding a boyfriend. All I knew was that boys cared about sex, and I didn't know enough about it. I was too embarrassed to ask my peers. They were already uber judgmental about my naivete to all things black after I accidentally exposed myself when Tupac died. Tupac died? What do you think? Normally, I would have been spared from middle school humiliation by asking my two older brothers directly. They would have happily explained who Tupac was, and I would have happily plagiarized their responses and relayed their feelings about him as my own. But my second oldest brother had by then also graduated from the house to go to college, and I was left as the oldest in the house. If I had trouble attracting the boys at my school before, my ignorance about Tupac destroyed any remote chance I might have had. All I knew was that I had all these developing feelings for boys and that I wanted desperately for them to notice me. They did, but for reasons that didn't help my quest. My natural hair, my underdeveloped, seemingly concave breasts, my white girl accent, and my tomboyish appearance. The prototype of lust for boys my age was a light-skinned girl with long hair, and I just didn't fit that profile. But I didn't want to believe that. So I would imagine instead that I held the interest of all the boys, and often convinced myself of that. All the while, I remained the continued object of disdain from my peers. I often found myself emboldened whenever a guy would show me any attention at all, i.e., hey, you did the homework, let me copy. Or, you got 10 cents for the vending machine? I blame any misread social cues on Saved by the Bell. Zach and Kelly's romance was something I wanted so badly to emulate. My first ever junior high school dance was approaching, and with the help of a Saturday morning marathon of Saved, I built up the courage that Monday morning to talk to Remington, an 8th grade looking 6th grader who I'm pretty sure had been held back, though nobody talked about it. He had thick facial hair and muscular athletic arms. He loved women and frequently expressed his sexual desires in a way that hinted at experience. In my eyes, he was the answer, and I had so many questions. One of them I worked up the courage to ask in front of his friends. I approached him right after our environmental studies class was dismissed, casually waiting for him to pick up his only single school supply, a single folder. Hey, Remington, I started shyly. Are you going to the dance? He didn't miss a beat. Not with you! His friends didn't even try to hide their laughter. Not a single one. I smiled and tried to play it off. Oh, no, I didn't mean that. You thought I was asking for me? But it was too late. They had already pushed past to leave me in the classroom alone, my environmental studies teacher avoiding eye contact with me. Ever optimistic, I went to the dance by myself with the hope that maybe a boy there would ask me to dance. Maybe it would be Quentin, that skinny, half albino, half effeminate boy to whom I'd been sending secret admirer letters. It was the least he could do after excitedly exposing to the class that I had been writing him love notes for weeks. Despite my humiliation, I couldn't really blame him. It happened naturally enough. The homeroom teacher brought up secret admirers in her announcement about Valentine's Day grams. Does anyone know what a secret admirer is? She asked. I do, Miss Nash. My heart plummeted to my stomach as I noticed him anxiously looking in my direction. What do you know about secret admirers, Quentin? Asked Miss Nash. That girl right there was writing me secret admirer notes. He smiled at me as if his public acknowledgement didn't violate the very purpose of the secret in Secret in Life. Surely he would save me from rocking around the junior high school dance all alone in the jean jumper and white turtleneck I had packed in my backpack just for this after-school occasion, and I never wore dresses. Somebody had to take notice and ask me to dance based on that alone. Unfortunately, no one ever asked. I was rapidly coming to the conclusion that boys didn't find me attractive. That was heartbreaking. My self-esteem was in danger, and had it not been for the saving grace of the instant message feature on AOL, I probably would have suffered death by trying too hard. I don't remember the first time I typed to a stranger. It wasn't monumental for me, but it did speak to a desire to escape myself. For one thing, I could be anyone I wanted to be online. With each swift keystroke, a new fearless identity emerged. I could be light-skinned with long hair, or blue-eyed with blonde hair, or experienced, witty, and seductive, things nobody saw me as in real life. I could be anyone's type and was able to do so because during the early stages of AOL, pictures were pretty rare. Though around the time that IMs came along, home scanners were growing more popular. Thankfully, however, pictures took forever to upload and weren't in high demand, so people were content with self-descriptions. As people tended to be quite generous in their descriptions of themselves, I figured I could be too. What did it matter? ASL, the pop-up conversation would start. Age, sex, location. This blatant acronym had to have been tooled by pedophiles. The GS. There was something flattering about being selected out of a pool of 30 to 60 people in a chat room for a private talk. I'd imagine it was like being chosen at a party to dance, although I wouldn't know anything about that. But for my chameleon-esque purposes, responding to this conversation opener was the hardest part. I couldn't become a type if I didn't know what I was working with. If I were in the mood to talk to someone my age, I'd be honest. 11 female Cali, you. 13 female Arizona, hi. Trick, I don't want no friends right now. On to the next. Sometimes I'd be the pursuer. I'd visit the R&B, rap, or games chat rooms and scout screen names that would give me hints at my preferred types. Soccer player 83, muscle man 39, black boy 17. All I had were snippets of open chats to go by. What were they contributing to the larger public conversation? I couldn't choose someone who was too active in the chat room. His chances of committing to a one-on-one were slim. Besides, someone who revels in being the center of attention is not my type. I don't like to compete. Instead, I went for those who would contribute a few meaningful phrases here and there, like, games are cool, or, yeah, I love R. Kelly. Subtle hints like those were enough to provoke me to reach out. I'd begin, and my screen name was SugarLove112, I'll explain later. Hi, ASL, Muscleman 39, 18 male Delaware, you? 17 female Cali? Cool, what's up? Nothing, chillin', bored. Are you horny? What? Like rhinos? My knowledge of internet slang was coming up empty, but I tried. What do you mean? Then came the door slam sound effect from my computer speakers. Muscleman 39 has signed off. After a couple of weeks and some more of these incidents, I decided to finally look up the definition of horny. What was being asked of me? My Encarta CD-ROM produced no answers, but Yahoo was full of them. Horny, desiring of sexual activity. Oh my freaking God. Of course, yes, that's exactly what I was. The answer to what I was looking for in so many ways was being dangled before me, and all I had to do was respond with a simple yes. I couldn't wait for the next opportunity to showcase my new personality. I sought it thirstily. This time ready for the exchange and wealth of knowledge that would follow. I was so appropriately excited and ready. My first online relationship started off innocently enough. Every day after school, around 3:30, I would log on. It was the perfect time. My mom, who was too tired to worry about her remaining 3 kids after dealing with 100 plus of her French students, would go take a nap. During that time, nobody could go in and disturb her, unless there was a fire or an intruder, and Jehovah's Witnesses didn't count. We had all learned by swift slap punishment that we would respect her nap time. It was the one time slot of the day, 30 minutes or sometimes a whole hour, that our adult supervision was lenient. Occasionally I would play bossy and order my siblings around on behalf of my mother, But for the most part, I left him alone to focus on my own debauchery, and thus began my first real online relationship. He was 19, I had turned 12, but my parents were 7 years apart, so I guess it was cool. He described himself as white, athletically built, bald, with a red beard. When I first saw American History X years later in high school, I had a flash memory of him as if I'd met him in a previous life. He was, quote unquote, pretty average looking by his description, but by my imagination, he was beautiful. He was sensitive. He asked me, Jennifer was my white girl name, about my day, about how I was doing. He expressed his feelings for me, told me he felt stupid for thinking about me all the time when we'd never met. To him, I was blonde-haired, blue-eyed, and petite, and technically I was petite for an adult person, but definitely oversized for a sixth grader. Our conversation started out pretty casually at first, but they escalated quickly, and then he made the first move. Redbeard 19, what are you wearing? Sugarlove 112, a tank top and shorts. By then I knew how to play the game. I'd been asked the question via IM multiple times enough to know that a t-shirt, baggy jeans, and sneakers wasn't sexy enough. With Redbeard 19, I was slightly seasoned, and he only helped me to get better. He taught me so much about what ideal sex was supposed to be, what I could expect from future relationships. This was the prelude to sexting. The crazy part is, nothing about this turned me on. It was a learning experience for me. I would type what guys wanted to hear while reading Spider-Man comic books or as Tiny Toon Adventures played in the background, satisfied that while most of my peers were still virgins, at age 12, I was mastering the art of cybersex. After that first time, I started to feel a sense of guilt. In the classroom, I was anxious, worried that eyes were on me. I started to wonder if what I did was wrong. What would my teachers think if they knew? My parents? Could people tell? Did I look different? One day in the spring, I sat in Miss Frank's English class, unusually quiet. The teacher's pet, I owned this class, and she reminded the class of that often, which only escalated their hatred of me. But that day, sick and in pain, I just didn't feel well. It was as if the butterflies in my stomach had turned into dark moths with razor-sharp antennas that were poking my sides and my midsection. I felt nauseous and dizzy. What was happening to me? I hadn't even had real sex. Ms. Frank excused me to the nurse's office, and I clutched my stomach and my throbbing head, worried about my pending diagnosis. I stopped at the restroom first to see if maybe I was experiencing a case of lunch food poisoning. And in that bathroom stall, I discovered that just like Sally in the sex ed section of the health textbook we had studied that winter, my body had begun to succumb to its transition to womanhood. Or as I thought at the time, ew, gross, my vag is bleeding. I told the nurse I'd just gotten my period, and she was super sympathetic, asking me if I wanted to go home. I did. I called my mother, who was transitioning into her new role as a stay-at-home mom, and whispered my news into the phone. Mom, I got my period. What? Are you at school? I don't feel good. What's wrong with you? I got my period. Aww, my shubaloobalooba. I'm coming. During the car ride home, as my mom snuck peeks at me and patted my leg for comfort, I wondered if I were being punished for my fast behavior. In health class, we learned that a girl's period typically came around the time she was a teenager. I had just turned 12. I was in a rush to grow up, but I didn't know if I wanted to be grown yet. I didn't want to be a woman because that meant more responsibilities and expectations, and I was way too lazy for responsibilities and expectations. But then, my mom assuaged my worries with a simple declaration that changed everything for me. I guess you're a teenager now. To hell with being a woman, I was a teenager. Teenagers like the kids on 90210 and Saved by the Bell, finally, that was the missing link of my identity. And this bloody punctuation served as a head start to my new identity. I was a horny teenager. My relationship with Redbeard 19 progressed as scanners became more readily available, and he sent me a picture. He was nervous to do so, but he felt like I should see him. I was so excited, but also nervous. By then, I'd had several online flings here and there, but he was the only one with whom I'd had something real. Also, up until then, his face was an open canvas. It could change depending on what he said or my mood. He wasn't a fully real person to me with real feelings and real desires. He could have been lying to me in the same way that I was lying to him. We both could have had Tiny Toons on our television screens, scrambling to come up with novel sex words to simulate each other. But the picture he sent me demonstrated to me two things. One, he was pretty damn honest. He appeared just as he said he would. And two, he was actually kind of cute. But something about our relationship wasn't the same after that. I felt like a fraud, and I was kind of turned off by how vulnerable he'd made himself. I stopped becoming available to him at the same time every day. I'd block him whenever I felt like prowling for new people to talk to, then unblock him when I was bored. He grew hurt and needy, and I grew disgusted and cold. Redbeard 19, what are you wearing today, baby? Clothes. Take them off. 5 minutes later, you still there? Sorry, I was on the phone. You don't have time for me anymore. Sugar Love 112 has signed off. After that, I kept them blocked. By now, I was becoming a pro. Some kids had after-school sports, some had piano lessons, but cybering was now my after-school activity of choice. And for the most part, it felt safe. I wasn't doing it for real, so I was still pure. My actions were justified because I could still wear white for my future wedding. Now pictures became a priority for me. If you didn't have a picture, I wasn't interested. As the most beautiful and sexy girl on the internet, I had a right to be picky. Not too much later, I met the guy of my dreams online. He sent me his picture after we got into a casual conversation about music. He was 22, Italian and black. He was one of the finest guys I had ever seen in my life, much less online. And he had multiple pictures of himself, so I knew it was real. Or was it? Thinking back, he sent me some very polished pictures, very Model-esque. But whatever, he was real to me. I know he was real because he said he was Italian and black. And when we spoke on the phone for the first time, he sounded like he was Italian and black. A Luigi and Tyrone hybrid, if you will. His voice was so freaking sexy, though. I can't recall what we would have talked about, what kind of engaging conversations came out of my 12-year-old mouth. I just remember wondering why such a hottie like him was looking for people to talk to online. He seemed like the kind of guy who people would go out of their way to talk to. Just when I began to convince myself that this hot guy was courting me for me, he started pressing me for a picture. Shit. I insisted that I didn't have a scanner in the past, but in an effort to keep him around so he wouldn't get bored with me, I told him I planned to get one just for him. So began the search. I'd have to do my best to find a picture that matched the description I gave him. He already thought I was 18. He thought I was African American and light-skinned with long hair. So thankfully, those non-specifics gave me lots of options. I don't remember where or how I found the picture, but she was gorgeous. She was who I wish I looked like. She looked like she could have been mixed race. My middle school peers would be all over her. In fact, I'm pretty sure I printed her picture out and told all the guys she was my cousin. That's your cousin? What side of the family? Where does she live? I sent him the picture holding my breath. Would he believe me? Boy, did he. He was awestruck and excited as if he'd hit the online jackpot. His interest in me grew. What did I do? Did I model? Was I dating? It felt amazing to be so beautiful. I envied the life of the real girl whose picture I stole. Did she know how lucky she had it? How easy her life was because she was so beautiful? And then the battalion wanted more. Maybe he was suspicious. Maybe he too felt like it was too good to be true. Send me another picture, he demanded one day. My heart started racing. How was I going to find another picture to send him? Since I was now supposedly the proud owner of a scanner, I had no excuse. So I went on another online scavenger hunt, this time to try to find a girl who resembled the fake me. I found one. She was light-skinned with curly hair and posed in the shower half naked. She looked like she could have been partially Asian, but the initial picture I sent him was black and white, and the new picture of the girl in the shower was black and white, so I figured that he wouldn't know the difference. I was wrong. He confronted me on the phone, partly amused, partly miffed. That's not your real picture, is it? Yes, it is. You look like two completely different people. People always tell me that when I curl my hair. I don't think either of those pictures are you. Yes, they are. Not willing to argue with me about my fake identity, he pleasantly let me go. Ultimately, he stopped talking to me altogether. Lesson learned. Eventually, the online conversations and fake adult sex no longer filled the void that my socially inactive middle school life had left wide open. My friends were being asked out, people were coupling up, and I was left with my lies and fake personas. I needed someone to like me for me, or at least the person I pretended to be in person. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for listening. At this point, I'd love to take any questions you guys may have. Yes.
Amazing story as always.
Thank you.
But I wondered, since you have, since I love your story about wanting to be someone different, and everyone who's gone through natural experience can say like, natural hair was about hair. So when did you decide to make a story that was about you being beautiful pursued by two guys and all that kind of thing, and really embracing you as Black women that's beautiful too?
I mean, it definitely took time. I think as all adolescents can relate, it's a period of time when you're coming into your own, you're discovering who you are. And middle schoolers are mean. There's such like a strong opinion. And so that definitely took time. Beyond college, I think it took really being in high school and being around different kinds of Black people, and college especially. Stanford was great about opening my eyes to the very beauty of Black women, the intelligence. There's just so much that I learned from being immersed in that environment, in that community. And that stayed with me. That stuck with me, from creating my first web series and making the lead, beautiful Black woman with natural hair, and continuing throughout. So it took a journey. I think through my work, I learned to accept my own beauty and self-confidence. In the back.
Oh. Hi. I should be loud. I actually want to give you a compliment because I'm going to give you a compliment and then ask you a question. I just got out of the Army a little while ago, and I discovered Awkward Black Girl shortly after I came back from Iraq, and it absolutely helped me transition because I felt very out of place. So first I want to give you that compliment. Thank you for me.
Thank you so much.
I don't want to forget my question because I'm super awkward. This is weird for me. You're a rock star. You're a writer and as a creative entity, you get not nearly as much press as you deserve, but you get a lot of press for that. I'm more interested in, you have a lot that you're doing as basically a businesswoman, and you're basically the story of the perfect startup. So on that side, what do you think is your hardest career choice that you had to make, the hardest hurdle you had to jump in making this a career?
Well, first of all, thanks again. That's really, really encouraging. I think when you're creating content online, especially video production, initially for me the goal was to just put my content out there, but you slowly realize that you are forced to sort of become an entrepreneur, and that you're creating the content yourself, you're marketing it, you're trying to raise money to continue to produce content, you're working with people, you're bringing on a team, and that sort of grew without me realizing it. And then ultimately, as I started to grow and started to realize that I could have an impact in sort of changing or affecting the content that wasn't being seen in the mainstream, then I took that wholly and I started collaborating with other content creators. And so I think the most difficult part was that, for a while, as I was touring with the series, as I was working with other content creators, as I was trying to build this business, even with the merchandising and all that, I started not creating as much, and even when we went into our second season of Awkward Black Girl, I was so focused on the outside of it that I didn't focus on the creative as much as I wanted to. And that was a huge challenge for me. But maintaining the balance between being a creative and still keeping a business afloat is challenging. But I had to dedicate time. I had to say, okay, I'm not going to travel for a certain period anymore. I'm a creator, so I need to be focusing on writing at the end of the day and creating new content. And so that became a priority for me, and it definitely is now. So now I've delegated more tasks to certain team members because one, they're already better, and two, they just really help to just keep everything afloat and keep me afloat. Yes, ma'am. Oh, he's right there.
I don't really need it. I'm a writer. I'm a writer too, and I just wanted to know, can you tell us a little bit about your writing process?
Sure. So the writing process just, do you mean with writing the book or in general?
In general.
In general, I'm typically inspired by various things, by what I read, by what I watch on television, news included, by my social interactions. That provides a lot of material for me. Even with this new HBO show I'm working on, it's like really close to my real life and my friendships, like one of my closest friendships. And once I have that idea, once I figure out like what the concept is, or even what the show title is, or what I want to focus on, I let that marinate for a while, and that could be anywhere from a couple days to months to years. And then I decide, like, we're on the timeline of other stuff that I have in my mind that I'm creating, when to focus on it and where it fits. And then it's a matter of, like, when I get into it, when I start writing, I just start writing. And then I send it to close friends, or, just the circle or team that I trust, whose opinion I trust, and who I feel like will elevate the content, and then go to create it, cast, put it online, and then you get instant feedback. That's the best part. In like 5 minutes, you know whether people love it or want you to die.
What was it like working with Shonda Rhimes?
Shonda, that was an amazing process. I met with her. I met with her actually during the first season of Awkward Black Girl, not her company. I met with Betsy Beers, who is her producing partner, who's also amazing, and her associate Rachel, and they sort of asked questions about Awkward Black Girl and what was happening, and at the time, I knew that I didn't want to be on network television, and that was it. So then when we got our second season was funded by Pharrell Williams, and we had this Rolling Stone article come out, and they called me back in, and this time Shonda was there, and I was like, Jesus. So we had a meeting, and again they asked about Awkward Black Girl, what was going on with it, and I said the same answer. I didn't want it for network television. I felt like it was a better fit for cable, and they were like, yeah, we totally agree. What else you got? Like, what other show concepts? And I was like, well, I'm working on this series called I Hate LA Dudes. It's based on fact. And they were like, oh my God, what a coincidence. We hate LA men too. And so we started talking for 2 hours and just hearing her experiences. And they were like, we really want to develop this with you. And so just the entire process, like they really, really tried to hone my voice as much as they could for network television. And they just totally got me. It was just the best sort of mentorship in a way to come up under her, because they're really just killing it right now. And so that experience really just taught me a lot about really being secure in my vision, because I don't think I was at the time. I felt like I got a shot, and I was like, even if I didn't agree with notes from like the network or the studio, I was like, well, I'm just gonna try to please everyone, and if the show gets picked up, then I'll put my foot down. But ultimately, like, the project just ended up not being what I initially envisioned, and it just wasn't as good, and ABC passed on it at the end of the day. But that relationship was just, super, super valuable to me. And then the HBO door opened shortly after that. Yes, that's how you put it.
Hi, my name's Reem. Hi everyone, my name is Reem. I just wanted to ask you a question about growing up with both African and Black culture, and African and Black culture, and how that kind of correlates with each other too. So just that.
Sure. My dad is West African. He's from Senegal, and my mom is from Louisiana. And so, my dad was just always adamant about us going, to visit his family back home. In fact, he had us all move because he felt like we didn't have enough discipline when we were younger, and he took us to Senegal, and so we lived there for a time. And just being around, like, I enjoyed myself because I was very young. My older brothers were miserable because they were LA dudes who had made all these female friends and thought they had girlfriends in the gang. And so they hated the experience. But I just really, it really shaped me, just because, I had the opportunity to see the two parts of the world, in a way that, informed, one, how kind of good I had it in the States, but also how great I had it in Dakar with that family, and it was just so family oriented, and it was just a really great experience. But I haven't yet explored, outside of this book, just what that perspective did for me, aside from just really, really making me appreciate my culture, and really making sure that, you know, with my future kids, I will instill that in them. There's one over here.
Hello, my name is Bernie. I love you. I love your show. I watch every single episode. My favorite episode is Stapler. It's freaking awesome. I have a question about season 3. Is it coming back, and when? Now.
I struggle with that. It'll come back when it's ready. It's just not in a place. I'm not really thinking about it right now in that sense, and it's kind of hard, like scheduling multiple people. It's a big cast, and so that kind of was, you know, hard at the end of the day. And so I'd rather bring it back when it's focused. So short answer, I don't know.
Hi. Oh, thanks.
Hi, my name is Ayana, and I just want to say thank you so much for coming to Seattle, and thank you for everything you do for us. You give us a voice, and you've achieved so much already in your young life. And my question is, at what point, like, what's a career goal you have where you will feel like you have really accomplished, like, what you set out to do?
That's a great question.
Thanks.
I don't know. I wish I could say that there was like a cap that I've achieved, but I feel like, you know, the journey is so fun, and I feel like I'm doing what I love now, and I'll only continue to do what I love. I don't feel successful, I was saying earlier, at all. I just feel like I'm constantly proving myself with every new thing that I do. And that's not necessarily a bad thing to me. I like, you know, challenges, and I love working with new people, and I love just seeing what else I can do. Like, this book was a challenge. I want to go into film. I want to produce other content creators. I want to try something in every medium I can, and just keep growing as an artist. So I guess when I'm old, that's when I'll feel fulfilled. Yes.
My name is Bam, and I'm wondering, to what point does colorism still affect you in your personal life and your professional life?
Colorism or
like
racism?
The current politics of white beauty.
Oh, I mean, it's still a huge issue in Hollywood. I think that's like, we haven't even had like a, I mean, I guess we're close. Tracy Ellis Ross has natural hair on television. But I mean, like, we have such a long way to go in terms of implementing that there are more standards to beauty than the European standard. And I think that the internet is doing a great job with showcasing various types of beauty. And I think now I'm optimistic that people are more open to showcasing it. But I mean, as a society, we just have a long way to go. I don't necessarily let it affect me now, because I still grew up during a time when I feel like there were just so many standards, like, you know, with the different worlds and even the Cosby shows and all that. Like, I felt like seen in a way, but, you know, now I just, you know, Viola's doing it in her own way, and I'm super proud of her. I think she really broke barriers in a way, but we just have a long way to go, and I hope to make a difference on my end as well. Oh, wow. You in the back with the pretty fro.
Oh, thank you.
My question is, what do you do to relax or have fun whenever you're not working?
I like to have wine downs, W-I-N-E downs. I hang out with friends. I do like to spend time either alone or with friends. That really helps, relaxing. I've binge watch shows because that's research. That's what I do. I'm a pretty boring, basic person. You? Yes.
I don't have a pretty
Show pretty hair.
So I'm Boris from the College of Education. And my question is, do you feel burdened by or empowered as a role model for young people? Does that influence you? And then also a follow-up question, if you had to choose a side, would you be with Beck, Kanye, or Beyonce?
I love it. So to answer your first question, I don't feel burdened by becoming like a role model. I want to be a role model at the end of the day. I don't think my content right now is for young girls, and that's a huge problem. I'm being honest. I had someone come up to me, I was like at a restaurant in New York, and I had a mother come up to me with her 6-year-old daughter, and she was like, do it, do it. And the girl started singing, "My booty shouts." And I was like, no, this is not for her. So that is challenging in a way. I do want to ultimately create content that is, suitable for them, because, thinking about me as a young girl, and I think about what I would have wanted, what would have helped me, and so I'm working on it in some ways, but I really have to clean this mouth up and get that together. And then on the Kanye, Beck, Beyonce debate, where are we set? We're not in Chicago. I'm sorry, Beck did it like graciously, and he is a very, very talented musician. He plays like 14 instruments. He's very humble with his, and I kind of like, he didn't curse Kanye out. He didn't say anything like, "You don't know what you're talking about," N-word. Like, he was just really gracious with his response. And I do think that, I haven't listened to his album at all. I love Beyonce's album. But Kanye needs to, Beyonce can fight her own battles. Stop hating. What side are you on? I need to know.
Beyonce's album was much better. I haven't even heard a single Beck song. I don't know what you're talking about.
That doesn't mean it's not better. That's not even better. You didn't even listen. And then the artistry, Kanye was talking about respect the artistry.
Yeah, Kanye's crazy. I'm not saying that.
Okay, fair enough. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question for you about YouTube. Oh, sorry. Hi. Thank you. So I have a question about YouTube. Do you feel like that's a great platform for your content to live on? Are they supportive of what you try to do? Or I'm just curious about if you would switch to a different platform, or how you feel about how they do stuff.
Yeah, great question. I think that, initially they were great. The staff was super supportive. I think that it's just a built-in platform to grow, and it's easy. There's subscriptions. People know, it's the #1 search engine outside of YouTube. Outside of Google, and it's just, convenient. But, they take 55% of your revenue at the end of the day. And I think that other models might just be better. So I'm definitely looking. And they understand that. They really need to kind of wise up and provide better opportunities for their content creators. But they sort of have a monopoly on the video game. So where else are we going to go at this point? But I've seen a lot of up-and-coming businesses trying to, one, provide other monetary solutions and options for content creators, and two, trying to just build a better, more targeted platform. So I'm optimistic. I see your hand, and then you.
As a respectable young man from Los Angeles, I just wanted to know.
What was the question?
I just wanted to know what exactly you dislike about LA dudes.
Baby voices.
Oh wait, I'm gonna say it with my chest. So.
I like people just really into themselves in a way that's actually really stereotypical. I watched my brother. Sorry, where are you from? Where in LA are you from?
I'm from West LA. I'm what do you call that place? Kaiser on Cadillac Avenue.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're in that. For sure. West LA, absolutely. But there's just have you asked a girl on a date in the last, and ever? I've always asked. That's it. There it is. That's what it is. So there's an expectation I feel like LA guys have, well, this is gonna come to me.
I don't even use that word.
I'm sure.
I'm just like,
But yeah, that's my grievance. Thank you though.
But I appreciate it.
Thank you for coming.
Reconsider, please.
Hi, I'm May Holly from Harvard. I think you're amazing. My mom actually showed you your show, which makes me, she might be a little bit more. I was wondering, you've had so much success, and what's fun to watch, one of the things that's fun to watch you, why, is because you built so much momentum. And so how have you used your YouTube show and your writer to really leverage yourself to new platforms and to getting a wider audience?
I think, first of all, tell your mother thank you. I think consistency is really, really important, and I found that, the momentum came from being consistent. And even though we had episodes like once a month, I think that we were consistent in releases, except that one time we released an episode really late and I got cursed out for it, but that really was and being able to, again, work with other content creators to distribute content like Black and Sexy, and then the team behind First, and that's just something that we'll continue to do. And I think that's important. I think that I can't stress consistency enough. Like, even with the second web series I did, Fly Guys Present the F Word, that was like the first time I decided that I was gonna have a consistent schedule. I was gonna treat it like a television show, and that every Monday at 10 a.m. you'd see a new episode, and I watched our audience grow from there. And I learned from the mistakes of that web series, and I applied them to Aqua Black World, and so that really, really helped, just in terms of understanding the audience, understanding what people want to see, and how long they'll watch something, So it's a growing process. I wish I could say that there was a model or a blueprint, but it's just trying to remain as authentic and consistent as possible. Yes, ma'am?
Hi, I'm a student here, I'm undergrad, and I just wanted to know, it was mentioned earlier that you went to Stanford, so is that PWI?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
PWI for sure.
So what was your experience like, just as an undergrad, and like being who you are, like on the campus where you were pretty much like?
Well, I actually loved my college experience, and I chose Stanford because the community of color was really, really strong, and I just loved, like, they had a Black Admin Week. Well, they had Admin Weekend in general. There was just, a Black Community Services Center, a special weekend where we all congregated, and there was just a strong sense of community. And so I didn't feel like isolated, or I didn't feel like I was, misunderstood. Everyone, it was just a non-pretentious, I guess, again, isolated environment. It was a lot of fun. Yes.
First of all, thank you, Carson. This is my sister that I was telling you about.
Oh, okay. Hey. Call her out. Can she say she's awkward?
My question to you is there an overall arching message that you would give to younger folk, specifically younger folk of color, or just younger folk in general?
Just for life?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, there are tons of messages I would give. I try not to be like too preachy with any of my work, but I think that just valuing one another and collaborating with one another is so important. I think I'll speak from an industry standpoint. I feel like television and film, they've created an environment, it's created an environment where we felt the need to compete with one another. And there is like a crabs and barrel mentality in general, but I think especially in that industry where, other directors and filmmakers feel like they can't support another because they know that there are 2 slots in the film industry, or 2 slots on television that they have to fill. So you're constantly calling. And in the internet world, it's not like that, because it's like the audience dictates what they want to see, and you're not gonna watch just one thing. It's not Pepsi and Coke, and people drink Pepsi and Coke anyway. So I think that that's a huge example of stuff like you don't have to compete with one another. Collaboration is key, and make it happen. Yes.
I'm from Chicago. I support Kanye.
Okay.
I got a question for you. So, do you read the comment section?
Oh yeah.
And then, if you do, like, how do you handle like the hate and crazy stuff that comes in there when you see it?
Yeah. I read the comments. People tell you not to read the comments at all, and I just don't believe that. So there's definitely angry people, but I found that you can extract the constructive criticism out of the comments. So sometimes there's like gold in there. Like I've been told in the past, like, bitch, your sound sucks, go die. And I know that I will fix the sound in the next episode. And that's it. And that's really important. And I think that, and I've also found that sometimes if you respond to people who, claim they don't like your content or claim they don't like you or whatever it is, sometimes I'll respond and then their whole attitude will change. Like, oh, I didn't know you were gonna respond. Okay. It's very petty, it's so fickle, so I can't take it seriously. So yeah, I don't really trip about the comments. I use it for feedback and I use it to get better, and it is helpful. And some people really do genuinely just want to see you make good content. So it's you have to be thick-skinned about it, and that's it at the end of the day. One comment did hurt my feelings. It was I had done like a promotion for Stan Lee. I'm a huge Spider-Man fan, and this guy like wrote on the video the N-word like 60 times, and he hand typed it because you could tell because some N-words were misspelled. He didn't cut and paste it, but that wasn't the bad part. I was amused by that. But when I clicked the show more just to see how many times he wrote the N-word, he wrote Stan Lee hates N-words, and I was like, is that true? But I googled it, and he does not. In the back, in the purple shirt, I think.
I was introduced to your show by my daughter, and I would say first, I think you are a role model.
Thank you.
Probably one of our funniest episodes is when the party scene, when you're trying to have fun. My daughter said, "That's me. That's mine too." So she totally related to it, and I have to say that I heard someone else say thanks for giving a voice. I think you do that.
Thank you.
The question I have for you is, how did you get all those people together to be in your cast? And were they free? I mean, they were great, but how did you bring them all together?
Yeah, so thank you. And the cast really just came about from, it started off as friends. I think it's so much easier to get people on board to someone when you make it first. And so making that first episode was, kind of the hardest part, because I don't like asking for help. I don't like people feeling like, they're doing me a favor. I want people who want to be there. And so I called on, my best friend to help me film it, because she's obligated as my best friend. She was like, girl, I don't have any filming experience. And I was like, that's cool, girl, nobody cares. And then my other friend who felt like he would be getting something out of it, because he's a dancer and he was transitioning into acting, and he's just always been an amazing supporter anyway. So I was like, will you be in my first episode? And from there, when we aired it, people saw that it was a real, tangible thing, and they, offered to be a part of it behind the scenes, in front of the scenes, and it reunited me with one of my high school friends who actually plays baby voice Darius. And he was always talented in high school. He hadn't been acting in a while, and when he hit me up, I was like, oh, I know exactly what I want from you. So that was, it just grew, and then ultimately, they were free because they were friends and they understood. Like the first episode cost me $25 to take them out to lunch. I just didn't have money, but as we grew, crew-wise, I did feel obligated to pay them something, even though I didn't have much. But then when we were able to do our Kickstarter campaign, we were able to really pay them something that was better than what I was paying them before. And then the second season, we just doubled up and paid people what they were worth. Yes, how am I doing on time, you guys? Good, okay. Right here.
Hello,
Hi.
I'm Abura, and yeah, I love you. I really loved Awkward Black Girl. I felt like for the first time somebody understood what it was like to just be me. And my question is, so sometimes in the creative process, you have that ugly voice in your head that tells you you're terrible and you suck, and no one's gonna read this, whatever, why are you even trying? And so my question is, how do you deal with that voice? Like, how do you just beat it into submission and put your stuff out anyway?
That's a good question. You know, it's just gonna happen. I mean, honestly, I can't articulate that voice just does not matter. And I think it's like, if you have a person that you can give your writing to, that you trust, that will give you the constructive feedback that you need. Because I had that voice, like, before I released the first episode, I had it with my friend, and I was like, I don't even want to release this. I don't even think it's funny. And she was the one that was like, well, take this part out. And no, it's really funny, like, just work. And you know, I trusted her opinion, and I knew that she wouldn't lead me astray. And so I think it's about first finding someone who believes in your work as much as you do, or maybe a little more than you do at this point. And then it's about like slowly teasing it out there to people you trust and then expanding. But it is a process, but don't let that voice get the best of you, girl. Beat it up. Yes.
So my question is, by the way, I'm a huge fan.
Thank you.
I've been watching since I was in high school. I was just like, yes, yes. And so my question is, how has your understanding of awkwardness changed? Are you still awkward? Are people more awkward around you? How has that evolved?
All of the above. The definition for me has stayed the same. Like, I'm still, like, in a traditional sense, awkward is definitely still, I'm socially uncomfortable, and, you know, I overanalyze social situations, and in the awkward Black definition and the awkward Black sense, like, I still don't feel like I fit mainstream media's depiction of Black women, you know, in that sense. So I'm awkward in you know, just as a Black woman in general. And it's evolved over time. I think the more attention it's gotten, and the more I'm presented with social situations, yeah, I feel uncomfortable. Or if I'm recognized and people are like, be awkward, and I'm like, you know, like that's weird. But I mean, it's, at the end of the day, you know, it's just a blessing that so many people relate to it, and I just have to keep that in the front of my mind. Yes.
I just want to say thank you for being me.
Thank you. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Should I go here first, and then I go here, since he has a mic?
Perfect. I'm just wondering what it's been like working with HBO, if you've had to change any of your vision for that, or if they've been really accepting of it.
They're gonna ask you to ask it again.
Okay. I'm just wondering if you had to change anything about your vision for the show for HBO, or if they totally accepted it.
Yeah, they've been just really, really great about like honing the vision, because I've developed it with them over time, and like the notes that they've given have only helped to make the show better. So it's changed, but I think in a great way. So I'm just really excited for you guys to hopefully see it somewhere. But I always say that they're the closest to the internet that you can get, because they understand and value the writers' voices and the writers' process. The only downside is how long they take.
Really sorry, we have time for two more questions. One more is over here.
Hi, I'm Stacey, and I'm wondering, after we go through all of your content, what you might suggest that we watch or read, what are your favorites?
Of my own or others?
I mean, I feel like they've all done yours, so.
Yeah. So others, online, my favorite thing ever is, are you talking about across the board?
Anything.
Okay. My favorite thing ever is Got to Be Real. It is the best YouTube series ever because it's just so creative. And it's the diva variety show, Got to Be Real. And the woman who creates it is amazing. She like dubs the voices of like Aretha Franklin, Rihanna, Mariah Carey, all these people, and makes them have like sort of rivalries with one another. It's brilliant. And it cracks me up every time. I love Black and Sexy content. I think they're doing a great job. Book-wise, I'm obsessed with Bernice McFadden. She's written Sugar, Gathering of Waters, and she's just so good. Music-wise, Childish Gambino.
Hey.
Is that the last question? Oh, last question.
So how would you, in the past, respond to people who try to stereotype you, or opposite would like criticize you for not fitting into a stereotype?
How would I respond to them now?
Yeah, or in the past?
In the past, I was, I think, a bit more passive aggressive about it and kind of internalized it, and I felt more pressure to like either be that or really try hard to not be that. And now I just feel like it's great to have like an outlet, a creative outlet to create, to create my response in a sense. I've definitely targeted people in the work, and that feels great. And that could still be passive aggressive, but it's a way of, denying their perceptions of me, and it's fun. I want to thank.
Oh, I see one more question. So we have time for one more question.
Okay.
I thought you would raise your hand. Okay, sorry, just kidding. So if we can have, just one last round of applause for Issa Rae.
Thank you guys.
The ECC, we want to kind of give you a gift and kind of just honor you for being here in our space. So Dominique, your biggest fan, you know Dominique, he's going to go get your gift and he's going to present it to you. So.
Oh, thank you.
And then after this, we're going to do a giveaway. So we have 6 free books already signed by Issa Rae. So if you received a coupon, you can take that out. Skincare routine?
It's not elaborate. I have very dry cactus skin, so just lotion.
All right, so here's Dominique.
Once again, thank you for coming to the ECC and to the University of Washington. I already told you how much you mean to me. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
One more round of applause, please.
Thank you. Thank you. Should I sit here?